Stick it, Surf. We came for the turf. But with most chains rolling out steaks, which ones are worth shelling out the clams for? At these seafood restaurants, you can bank on the beef or skip the sirloin altogether. Landry's Seafood House dates back to 1947. The first restaurant was located in a family home in Louisiana, serving up Gulf Coast cuisine like shrimp, crawfish, and oysters. If you love Southern-style seafood dishes like seafood gumbo, stuffed flounder, or blackened shrimp, this is the spot for you. But if steak is more your style, you may want to look elsewhere. For a seafood place, Landry sure has a lot of beef on the menu. Options include the filet mignon, ribeye, porterhouse, and the ribeye Valentino. Unfortunately, the steak dishes do not fare well with customers. One Google review claimed, "Steak was tough as a leather boot." Other customers say that the steak lacks flavor and can be dry and chewy. One diner left a review saying the steak tasted like wet paper. Based on the feedback, this is one chain where the steak definitely doesn't sizzle.
Pan fried, deep fried, stir fried. There's pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp.
Inspired by the movie Forrest Gump, Bubba Gump Shrimp Company is a family-friendly chain that specializes in shrimp and other Southern-style dishes from the sea. The menu also features dishes like baby back ribs and the 12-ounce boneless ribeye. But when it comes to ranking Bubba Gump's menu items, customers think the steak should be at the bottom of the list. One posted to Google, "I ordered the Forest Surf and Turf, and the steak came out cold and hard to cut. Once I managed through the bicep workout of cutting through that sirloin, I got an equally difficult task of chewing through those pieces." Another diner on TripAdvisor said of the steak, "Burnt tough as leather. Had to smother it in A1 or ketchup to even chew it." Other diners commented on how the steak comes out either overcooked or undercooked, noting how fatty the cut is. Based on the number of negative reviews, you're probably better off sticking to the seafood at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. When you think of Joe's Crab Shack, you might be thinking of buckets of seafood that are meant to be eaten by hand while wearing a plastic bib. And even though there's top sirloin on the menu, the chain certainly isn't known for beef. The steak is available as a meal with mashed potatoes and veggies, or as part of a surf and turf dish. It may seem like a solid choice for those craving red meat, but many diners say if there's one thing you should absolutely never order at Joe's Crab Shack, it's the steak.
Well, just knock its horns off, wipe its nasty old ass, and chunk it right down on the plate.
There are a few reasons why the steak at the chain gets less than favorable reviews. The first is the use of USDA choice grade beef, which has less marbling than USDA prime beef. Marbling is important for high-quality meat because it makes the steak juicier and melt in your mouth tender. Secondly, the chain seems to be wildly inconsistent when it comes to getting the temperatures right on its steaks. As one Yelp reviewer said, "My steak was overcooked and burnt. My husband's steak was undercooked." A Google reviewer confirmed the situation, posting, "They definitely cannot cook a steak. Overpriced for what it is, for sure." Headquartered in Denver, Colorado, Kona Grill claims to be America's grill. But sales started dropping around 2017, causing many stores to close. And in 2019, the chain filed for bankruptcy. Then, according to FSR magazine, the chain pulled a 180 when it was purchased by One Group Hospitality. But even so, customers find that the quality of the food is still lacking. A quick look around reveals a slew of scathing reviews, with many of them honing in on the steak. One diner on Yelp said, "I hate to say, worst steak I have had in a few years. Ordered medium rare. It was well done around the sides of the steak and seemed a low-quality piece of meat. It was tough. Gross." Another Yelper complained, "They had to recook my steak 3 times and it still wasn't right."
You think I could ask them for a little ketchup?
I think you can ask for whatever you want.
Still, yet another disgruntled customer reported to the outlet, "I'm no expert in cooking steak, but one thing I know is that Texas Roadhouse can do better than this with a much lower price." On the flip side of the seafood restaurant table are the chains that are doing it right by land and sea. And Eddie V's Prime Seafood does exactly that. An Austin, Texas original that launched in 2000, Eddie V's has now grown into one of the top national seafood chains with 30 locations across the country. Each spot offers elegant decor, polished service, and indulgent dishes made with premium ingredients. While seafood is certainly a main focus, many diners consider the chain to be more of a steakhouse, which just shows how seriously it takes its meat. There are several steaks on the menu at Eddie V's, including a filet mignon, bone-in New York strip, bone-in ribeye, and filet medallions. You can customize your steak with add-ons like scallops or lobster tail, but many diners say it's already good enough to stand on its own. As one diner shared on Yelp, the steak was free of any fat and so tender you could cut it with a butter knife. The meat had the perfect amount of salt and was cooked to a perfect medium rare as requested.
Surprisingly tender.
Tender.
Another fan posted to Open Table, "The steak, cooked to perfection, was tender and succulent, a true testament to the chef's expertise." Island-themed chain Bahama Breeze serves Caribbean-inspired cuisine in colorful settings that encourage diners to have some fun. Many of the restaurants feature beachy decor and host live reggae and Latin fusion bands. The menu offers plenty of seafood dishes like crispy conch fritters, Caribbean red snapper, and jerk shrimp in a pineapple bowl. But for those who prefer their protein from the land, the chain also offers chicken, pork, and steak. Many diners say the skirt steak churrasco is the way to go. Fans love the tenderness of the meat and the tasty marinade, plus the affordable price for a hearty meal that comes with plantains, black beans, and rice. One Google reviewer noted, "I had the skirt steak churrasco and it was awesome. It was very moist and tender and had great flavor." Another diner posted to Google, "My skirt steak was cooked to perfection, flavorful, and enough for leftovers." McCormick and Schmick's has been serving up fresh seafood and succulent steaks since 1979. The chain is known for its commitment to high-quality ingredients and never sourcing frozen fish. It also gets its beef from grain-fed cows and ages its steaks to intensify the flavor. Although the chain has over 20 locations in the United States, it manages to offer consistently good food and service. As one diner posted to Google, "This steakhouse has a standard that does not drop no matter what city you dine in." There are several steaks on the menu at McCormick and Schmick's, including a USDA Prime New York strip, center-cut filet mignon, and a Black Angus ribeye, which gets particularly good feedback from diners. As one Google reviewer said, "Best steak I have ever eaten." Customers love the balance of the seasoning and flavor of the beef, as well as the tender meat that gets cooked to perfection. Some diners also noted the great value for the price. Any steak at McCormick and Schmick's is a top-rated choice. Ocean Prime is a seafood lover's dream. The ritzy chain offers oysters on the half-shell, sushi rolls, lobster bisque, and Chilean sea bass. There are also steaks on the menu with cuts like filet mignon, New York strip, and ribeye. If you love surf and turf, Ocean Prime gets great reviews for both its seafood and its steak. In some cases, it seems the steak actually outshines the seafood at Ocean Prime. As one Google reviewer said, "The Wagyu steak is the reason why Ocean Prime earned a spot in my top 5. I've had dozens of steaks from high-end restaurants. The steak just melted in your mouth."
Or is it Wagyu again for breakfast, Raymond?
Another Google reviewer called the steak out as one of the best and most underrated steaks anywhere. Need more delicious evidence? Other ways people have described the steak include sublime, outstanding, and life-changing. Truluck's earned a spot on our list thanks to its commitment to sustainable harvesting and serving the freshest possible seafood. The company only serves stone crabs while they're in season and never serves frozen stone crab claws. The chain puts just as much thought into its steaks, offering only USDA prime beef that's been hand-cut and aged for at least 30 days. There are a few different steak options to choose from at Truluck's, including a filet mignon, ribeye, and New York strip. The chain also does a mean steak frite with a chef's cut steak and truffle fries. Each steak is seasoned with Truluck's special spice blend and broiled at a blistering 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. The result is a beautiful sear on the outside and tender, juicy meat on the inside, on par with any steakhouse. One diner posted to Google, "I have not had steak anywhere else since I've tried Truluck's, even though many have tried to steer me away." Legal Seafoods began as a small family-run restaurant next to a fish market in Inman Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts. After a successful start, the chain now has 26 locations along the East Coast. Seafood is still the main highlight of the menu, but it now includes a New York strip and filet mignon, which many find just as satisfying as the seafood. The steaks are brushed with garlic butter, and some are served with roasted potato wedges and colossal shrimp on the side. You can also add other seafood like scallops or a lobster tail to create a surf and turf meal. Customers note the steaks are cooked perfectly, and the meat is tender. One diner on Yelp even posted, excellent steak with amazing potatoes that took me by surprise by the incredible taste it had. A TripAdvisor fan also went so far as to say, yes, this is a seafood place, but I got probably one of the best steaks I ever had. When you step into Chart House today, you would probably never guess that the chain came from modest beginnings. The first outpost opened in a converted diner in Aspen, Colorado in 1961 with just a few tables. Now the chain has 24 elegant restaurants across the country, each situated in a spectacular setting. But even in the early days, the focus was on fresh seafood and steaks.
Why don't you get yourself a fresh steak on me?
Your meal at Chart House could start with fried calamari or seared ahi tuna, followed by filet mignon, New York strip, or slow-roasted prime rib. Many diners give glowing reviews about the steaks, with one posting to Google, "Each steak was a masterpiece of flavor, tenderly cooked to melt in the mouth perfection." Another Google review noted, "The filet mignon was the best I've ever had. If you are expecting cheap food, this is probably not the place for you. But the best steak you'll ever have in your life is probably not going to ever be cheap." Brothers Chris and Harris Pappas opened their first restaurant in 1976, but wouldn't start this 30-plus location seafood chain until a decade later. Pappadeaux Seafood Kitchen is their Louisiana-inspired brand specializing in Southern-style seafood. It's also cooking up a few steak dishes as well, including an aged ribeye and a filet mignon with a baked potato or jumbo lump crab and cream sauce. According to diners, the steak holds its own against any of the fish dishes. One posted to Google, "The steak is so good that you have to sit back and enjoy the flavor with every bite." Many diners echoed the sentiment, with more than a few commenting on the tender, juicy, and flavorful cuts. One Yelper shared, "I didn't even need steak sauce because it was so good without it." Discerning diners were also impressed, with one TripAdvisor reviewer saying, "The filet mignon my husband ordered was one of the best steaks he said he had ever had, and that's coming from a Texan."